Hello everyone. A warm welcome to all of you on the Special Needs Children podcast. I'm Chitra Iyer. Today's episode is very close to my heart as we are joined by someone who has walked a path that many parents of special needs children know already, Devashish Paul. Professionally, Devashish is a seasoned management and marketing strategy consultant with clients spanning India and the US. Before he took the consulting leap, he spent over 2 decades in the high-octane world of advertising with iconic agencies like McCann, Saatchi & Saatchi and Lintas, shaping campaigns for global giants like Coca-Cola, Microsoft, Nestle and Hyundai, and also leading award-winning public service campaigns on critical issues like malnutrition and women's health. But beyond the boardrooms and awards lies a father, a thinker, a communicator. After becoming an autism parent, Devashish began actively guiding other families and volunteering his time to support children with learning and communication challenges. He has also been associated with Awaaz AAC, a path-breaking communication app for children with special needs in its development phase. His first book, I Have Autism, and I Like to Play Bad Tennis, published by Westland Books, has touched hearts worldwide. Since its launch in April 2023, it sparked meaningful conversations on autism, parenting, and inclusion, and taken him to prestigious literary festivals like Jaipur Lit Fest, Hyderabad Lit Fest, Ooty Lit Fest, and many more. A man of many passions, from art to theatre to Yuval Noah Harari, Devashish brings both intellect and empathy to every conversation. Thanks so much for doing this, Devashish.
Thank you,
for being on
Chitra,
this
for
podcast.
having me on this podcast. Really appreciate it very much.
So, I'll get started right away with the first question, Devashish. Your book carries such a striking title. I have autism and I like to play. You struck off the good and wrote bad tennis. The cover of the book is equally striking and very cheerful. What did you hope the world would understand through this book? Not just about autism, but about parenting and joy.
The line actually comes from my son Noel. He used to often call me when I'm on a business trip. When are you coming back? I want to play bad tennis with you. And he would say this to, bug me actually. But actually, what lies behind this is this defying this whole parental tendencies and nothing to do with autism. I mean, let's look at the parenting in general. The whole push to be a rank holder, to come out with flying colors, to be good at everything you do, that pressure is constantly there for our children from early stages and right up to they finish school and college. So this pressure actually doesn't work for many of our kids. And we don't seem to recognize that. We are obsessed with this idea of being good and being competitive. So there is a negative side to it, So when Noel says actually that I like to play bad tennis, what he's saying is it's a pushback to stop telling me that I have to be good at everything, I have to be competition ready, I have to win competitions, I have to win trophies. That's the pushback. But the important thing to understand is it does not mean that he is not enjoying tennis. He loves tennis. He wants to learn new techniques. He's enthusiastic about playing tennis and looks forward to it. So that's the message which I wanted to convey, that it doesn't mean that we always have to come out winners. In fact, Noel says, and I mentioned this in my book, he doesn't want to defeat other people. He doesn't see great joy in actually coming out first. So try to encapsulate that as this whole thought in the title.
Lovely. And as a parent, many people, whoever I have met, they have always shared about their struggle with acceptance. right? And we see that uh, some of the people are trying their best in terms of either fixing or accepting whatever is happening for their children in their lives. So, what did acceptance look like for you? And how did it feel for you? And did it change anything in terms of your relationship with your son?
I'll come to that part, but one thing I wanted to mention, which is the overarching media influence on our society. All the parents are exposed to this onslaught on a daily basis. Uh, Again, of coming out what I just said about winning competitions, being competitive. It's a very difficult world there, challenging world there. You have to compete with others. So this pressure, the first thing is actually, if you think about it, comes in the way of acceptance, right?
Yeah.
And it is artificially generated by media, you know. Second thing is that acceptance is multi-level, right? Firstly, what does it do to the child we are talking about? And again, it is not, I'm just not marking it out as an ASD child. Any child must feel that he or she is accepted the way he or she is. Why I'm saying this? Because even if you are at your parenting best, your love, care, support, kindliness is coming out, is expressed. The child intuitively feels whether he's being accepted or not. Even if it is a non-speaking child,
Absolutely.
they can intuitively, and that's the gift they have.
Yeah.
Their intuition is very powerful. We have to recognize that. So it is not only enough to display love and care, but you have to signal acceptance, which the child picks up. And this is also an important thing that I like to convey to teachers and therapists. As soon as the child walks into the therapy room, does he feel accepted the way he is?
Yeah.
So that respect, that extending dignity, even to a small child, is crucial. So acceptance is extremely important part of raising any child. Now we come to ASD, where there are so many complex difficulties. So we say we have to work on ourselves to get into acceptance. I had, like you asked me about how does it look for you? Well, it was the fixing thing approach earlier. Yes, there is a problem, let me fix it. There's a therapy, it'll make it work. But you have to first, there has to be wholehearted acceptance. And it has to come from within. So if it has to come from within, no external, source or a guru would be able to get to that. You have to work on yourself. You have to dialogue with yourself. You have to challenge your own thought processes, the deep entrenched, prejudices that we have. We have to first break those ourselves first. So there's a lot of work to be done by yourself. The second thing is, once you have acceptance, oh my, there is so many pathways open up. And that happened to me, and it took a long time. Years went by. First of all, this whole negative spiral I was going through every day of my life till then actually is a lot of waste of energy and time. Think about it. That negative thinking, why did it happen to me? What a great, injustice is this? How do I look at the future? What happens to my social life with the child? How will he handle school? Where will he land? So that negative spiral, and then we feel that we don't deserve this. That becomes very strong in our feeling. So all of this comes in the way of doing good for your child. It comes in the way. So you're mechanically doing stuff, but there is no heart in it. You get to acceptance, that point, and then you see that you have you've stopped this negative spiral, you've accepted the reality, suddenly you feel there's no energy burnout. You feel a new energy comes into everything that you do. Child picks up that, and everything is in a very positive sort of atmosphere around you. You create that atmosphere around you. The other thing is what acceptance does is this is my notion that it triggers something which I call everyday courage. Everyday courage is a must if you're into ASD parenting, because every day I have to think, what is the new thing I'm going to do today? It didn't work yesterday. What will I do today? How will I think about the problem afresh? What new therapies or new techniques should I look at? How do I and the other thing, it triggers out of the box thinking. So out of the box thinking is something very much talked about in the corridors of advertising agencies, and you actually practice it in parenting. So it opens up only because you have now come to a state of acceptance.
I completely agree. Otherwise, it can be a real deep hole.
Yeah.
That you don't know where it stops.
Yeah, and it is so much negative energy, so much wastage of time, and you cannot afford to waste times if you have a special child. One quick thing I wanted to add is acceptance also helps you recalibrate your life. For a young corporate executive, businessman, professional, the way you have planned out, typically affected by the competitive world, etc. You want to get there, here, at this position, this kind of earning, this kind of status. All of that gets recalibrated once you have acceptance. Because this is more important than anything else. So you are ready to make those, perhaps slower steps in your corporate and career, all of that. So recalibration for me is crucial. And then, and it is only possible once you accept the situation.
I mean, I think this is a wonderful thought for all the parents who are listening, who are still going through that phase of struggle. Yeah. So, you meet many families, you meet many parents. You're meeting parents who have just got a fresh diagnosis, you are meeting older parents. What is it that you're telling them? How do your discussions go?
So, maybe I should read a little bit from my book, just a little bit, sure, which perhaps sets the context. So, there has been an exponential growth in the subject knowledge of neurodiversity. We all know that. Advances in research, advances in medicinal therapies, learning devices, educational tools, incredibly easy to use teaching apps now, limitless resources, really. But expert advice, new knowledge of therapies and prescriptions are not the only things that parents need. They need courage every step of the way to hold up against societal negativities, that humiliation which is bound to come in your social life and your family life. They need the strength to crawl out from the caverns of hopelessness. They need help to laser cut through the bars of the cage of prejudices. They need new energy to think differently so as to benefit their child. They need a growing awareness, a growing sensitivity, and understanding that is supportive. They need emotional support, direction, and above all, they need hope. Yeah. So, when I talk to parents as a counselor or a coach, I first get them out of this cage, They have to free their minds. They have to begin to be fearless. And only then, and you accept the situation of the child, respect the child, wholeheartedly love the child, and only the solutions and pathways, they will automatically come to you. So this is in a nutshell, what I say. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, Chitra, I just wanted to add a little more so that people understand the numerous shades when I say recalibration. So the first thing is that when I say recalibration, it is not only of your ambition, career, job, and this is, I'm saying, not just the father, it is father, mother, and anybody else who is there as the caregiving unit of the family. It could be a grandmother, grandfather. That caregiving unit has to recalibrate. And I'll just give you a few instances of what I meant by recalibration beyond your personal ambitions. How do we travel? Okay. Travel with an autistic child at the age of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, in fact, up to the teens, is not easy. We all know that. But then that was only one dimension that used to prepare the child before a travel. Then we used to figure whether the mode of travel, should it be air or train, and there the cost consideration, of course, was a factor. So very often we used to travel by train from Delhi to Calcutta. We had to coach him, pre-coach him, how it will be. Sometimes we used to reserve 2 seats. So that's the recalibration. 2 seats for him so that he gets ample space and there's nobody, next to him, because we all know most of our kids, they need open, free space, open space. The other thing that started happening is we could never go for a family vacation, the classic family vacation. And by that time, Noel's sister had arrived. So 4 of us could never go for a vacation. You know why? Because by that time we were flying and Noel got comfortable about flying. Actually, train was much, he got adapted to train, and it was structure. The train structure was very clear in his head, how one had to be and what to expect. But we wanted him to get the structure of flying by airplane, so we moved to flights. Again, he got conditioned to that as well. However, we could never go for a vacation because I had this thing that what happens, or even my wife and I would never take a flight together, not the same flight. If we were to go to a destination, we had to take separate flights. So people, our friends, and just wonder what a peculiar way of, travel. Why can't you all come together to the destination? So I had this bug in my head. What if there's an air crash? Who will look after Noel? So consequently, we had to take this decision, and I shared it with Noel's mother and sister, and they were all aligned on this. So recalibration is so many things. Think of, for example, in Delhi, when we moved there, we were looking for either a ground floor or a first floor, because at that time Noel used to be very hyperactive, and I had this fear that he might just to check out how much he can jump, he might just jump off the balcony, because he at that time did not have the perceptions of danger and all of that. So you had to pay more in Delhi for a ground floor or a first floor, by the way. So that's the adjustment we had to make. So similarly, which school would he go to? Will Noel's sister go to the same school? That was a very difficult decision to take, because there are obvious advantages and there are numerous disadvantages. Noel is going to get bullied in school. That is taken for granted. So even if it's a special school within a special section within a integrated school atmosphere, bullying will happen. Children don't know how to accept neurodivergence. And we always talk about inclusion. You'll see long experts talking endlessly about inclusion. Inclusion has to happen in schools, with school children, not just special schools and integrated schools or regular schools. They have to learn to accept neurodivergence, be sensitive, empathize, all of that. How to communicate with them. So that nobody's doing, So that's one area of major work, actually. How do you you know, train the next generation about inclusion. You know, everybody will talk about inclusion. There are policies on inclusion. It's there in our education policy. But on the ground, what is it that we're doing to make sure that in next 10, after 10 years, this issue doesn't exist? At least in schools and colleges where ragging is rampant, teasing, bullying, all of that. So that's the downside of it. But then we, reflected on this. Would she become a far more protective child, sensitive child, if she's actually subjected to this, where Noel is humiliated or exposed to those kind of circumstances? So that was a call. So that's recalibration. She got admission in another school, one of the top best schools of, I should not use this word best. Google has taught us to use. You always search by saying best. It's terrible. So it's one of the very good school, well-resourced schools. But we took that call not to put her in there, So this is all part of this recalibration theme that I talk about. You have to. And then which doctor to go to, for example.
Yeah.
Very important decision. He might be very high caliber doctor, but if he's not sensitive, he doesn't treat Noel with dignity, does not understand his TIM behavior, then it's a no-no for me. I will not go to him. So this happened many a time. So, and I'm sure all parents can relate to what I'm saying. So that sensitivity, inclusivity, even with among doctors, is also lacking. It's very easy to say theoretically, but when you encounter, so Noel is to go to a doctor. The first thing he would do is go up to him. He was fascinated by his specs. Now, the frame or whatever, he used to just pull the specs out. Okay. And then he will place it on the table. Not that he will wear it, he will just place it on the table. Now, this could be a source of enormous irritation at the first instance.
Yeah.
But this guy, this doctor, he was so cool about it. So, what happens to parents? They become very stiff. Oh God, again it's happening, sort of thing. That moment, you're stuttering about, trying to explain, sorry, but, he does this. But the doctor was so cool, and then he became Noel's doctor. Yeah. Both of them had an instant connection, I took him to and he was very much into singing. So I found a singing musician teacher for him. And then he walked into his house. First thing, I've just introduced him to the music teacher. Walks straight into the house, opens the fridge, and checks out all the things that are there. He's not taking anything. This guy got so irked. What is this behavior? He flew off the handle, and before I could even though I had prepared Noel for this encounter, that I am taking to a new person, it's a new house, you're going to his house and all of that. But some things, you cannot predict. And then you have to just leave it to the other person's, sportingness to be able to accept the situation. But it was that. So, obviously, I could not, he could not become his student because I decided that this is not going to work for Noel. He has to be cool about it. So, yeah.
So, you mentioned when you were talking about various phases for a parent, right? That it's not that something's happened to them in their journey and that's it, it's done. Would you like to elaborate and, share about your thoughts on, as you're meeting many parents and you say that you're meeting very young ones, you're meeting those with older children, and then you're meeting those with adults.
So, on a slightly lighter note, let me just share a few snippets which will point to what does it mean to get somebody to get an ASD person ready for a new situation that he's going to encounter, you know, and more so when they are in their teens and or adulthood. So I was at a pathology lab for a blood test, my blood test, and Noel was with me as part of my always on teaching moments strategies. This is my coinage, always on teaching moment strategy. So in everything that we do, every encounter, every situation, there's something new he's going to learn, and I'll be the commentator, you know, saying this is what is going on, etc. So I had taken him to this lab, and the lab assistant was closing in on me with his intimidating needle to take blood. Noel suddenly grabbed his hand. Don't take Baba's blood, take mine for Baba's blood test. Okay. Noel could not bear to see his father in pain. Emotions set ablaze. A dramatic turn, and I understood that I had not given him a good explanation of why it had to be my blood and why his blood could not be a substitute, my goof up. So we used to have everyday situations like these, and you know, every time I came back, in spite of backing my, you know, always on teaching moment strategy, mein kar raha hu, but I always came back saying, I missed this one. You know, I goofed up. So there is always this thing, no, you have to be absolutely alert and think, what is that out of the box solutions we say, but what is the out of the box problem that might come up, and gear yourself up for that and prepare the child for the new situation. So that is the learning there. There's another thing, you know, we often say that how do you make your home interesting to the child? Very important. We don't even think of these things, you know, so that's the out of box. You know, we think that home is home, we're all here and we'll all, but for the autistic mind, it may not be, you know, so you have to make your home his place of, his safe place, his independent place, his place for his aloneness. He needs alone time. Most of us know all of it. But there's a certain goofiness you need at home, you know. I always give this example of a special educator who came. She was from the US. And I had just introduced Noel to her. So I was giving, so this is Noel, and you know, he's my son. And some more things I said about him. He loves singing, etc. So she says, and this is, and before I could finish, she started doing cartwheels in my living room. This is who I am. And you won't believe it. And Noel is very, you know, like every autistic child, you know, he's very reticent and he doesn't want to immediately, you know, communicate with someone new. And he was in splits. And the next thing I know, everything she said, he complied with.
Lovely.
So, and she did not make eye contact in that initial phase. She just came in and like I said, this one, she just took a look and no eye contact, no what is your name, shaking hands, none of that. So I'm saying you have to think about the problem, you know, in a very different way, you know. So coming back to this home thing, on the usual morning question, you know, I used to have a drill time that I am going to ask him a question and he will have to answer his way. And that would set up, again, a teaching opportunity. So the morning drill with my son to nudge his thinking. So I said, which is the one activity that you like most? Now I'm expecting him to say along the lines of eating pizza or ice cream. And this is when he is about 12 years old. Playing tennis, golf, by the way, he used to also play golf with me. Cycling in the forest, meeting people he likes, or listening to his music playlist. This was my expected box of answers. Noel thought for a while and answered, coming back home is his favorite activity. So, yeah, so there are these numerous incidents which I recount in my book, and all of them have a message actually, for parenting, for the siblings, and also there are so many ways, you know, you can relate to your child,
Sure.
So I still remember, asking him, I, told him that, your favorite music comes from YouTube. So do you know who the CEO of YouTube is? So I showed him the picture of the famous CEO. And then I said, so this is Sundar Pichai. Then he said, Sundar dikhta hai. So you never know what they will come up with,
Yeah.
So anything more you would like to ask
Oh,
me?
that's lovely. I think it was beautiful, and I mean, a lot of people are going to be listening in to this conversation, and you've really touched many hearts with what you've shared about Noel. Is there any one single thought or feeling that you would like to uh, tell a parent specifically? Anything that you think?
Uh, Let me tell, this message is better told through this little example, which I will just let me read this. It has a message for parents. So, learning to travel in the Delhi metro was a big step forward for Noel. After a few trials on the metro, he had learned how to use a metro card by himself. And this is now he's in his early 20s. And navigate his way through the crowds alone, with me, of course, watching him from a distance. I'm not next to him holding his hand, no, but I'm there somewhere. He knows that. That is also important for him to know that dad is around somewhere. That there is a crazy world out there, and letting him go in. He never, but he never truly traveled all by himself, for this reason. He often carried a glossy magazine to browse in his hand as a sort of safety blanket, a kind of self soothing mechanism to deal with the anxiety brought on by the outside world. So, and you have to allow that. It's just same teddy bear thing which little kids have. You have to recognize that need and be okay with it. Noel had also become adept at asking for a seat from a seated co-passenger since he struggled to remain balanced in the metro. Once upon my encouragement, he made a New Year's resolution. So I used to get very irked by the fact that he used to get into the metro and ask somebody to give the seat, because he thought that was
Normal.
that's okay, acceptable. Now this social thing that if somebody is seated in a metro, you cannot go and ask for his seat. I don't think it was very clearly understood why that social thing is so important. So that's how life continued. But then he made this resolution of not asking anyone to give a seat. He made this resolution. I will not. Okay. I will not. Okay. So just a few days after that, Noel waiting with a pensive look at the Kailash Colony metro station for the train to arrive. Very anxious now. Today I will not be asking for a seat. And he used to ask randomly, whoever is nearest, The anxiety bubbled up in his head. What if it was crowded and there was no empty seat? That was the anxiety. He would have to stand quietly through the journey, holding on to something in order to not break his newly made resolution. He will have to continue standing. The metro arrived and there were no seats available. Noel genuinely tried quite hard to stay fearless while standing in the crowded metro. But you know what? His courage ran out in just a few minutes and he began gasping for breath. In the grip of fear, he turned to the row of seats near him and said, "Mujhe seat dijiye, please. Give me a seat, please." He got his seat, sipped some water from his bottle, and all was well. But not for me, because he had broken that resolution, one would think. Noel had acute proprioceptive deficits. So he was unable to maintain proper balance while standing in the state of motion. So this is a part of the ASD issues. The boy had really tried. Seeing him caving in like that made me feel guilty for pushing the seemingly impossible. All of us have physical limits, and we must acknowledge that. We do not have to deliver on all our resolutions. We need not always win. It is the attempt that is of greater importance. So many compelling lessons were learnt all in one moment.
Thank you, Debashish, for sharing Noel with us. Thanks for sharing about your journey. Friends, that was Debashish Paul. And I hope, like me, you all felt the power of his words.
Please read Noel's book.
I was going to say that please get your copy. I hope you also get your copy and go through this entire journey that these books have. So, Devashish, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, pleasure.
And opening your heart so generously. Through your book, your advocacy, and your lived experience as a father, you remind us that love doesn't need fixing, only understanding. To all our listeners, if you have ever felt alone in this journey, let this conversation be your gentle reminder that you're not alone. There's a whole community out there, walking, stumbling, laughing and growing together. And yes, maybe even playing some wonderfully bad tennis along the way.
Yes, let's all play some bad tennis. Let's
Yes.
keep a provision for that in our lives.
So until next time, thank you so much everyone. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.